A new era dawned on March 14, 2025, when Mark Carney was sworn in as Canada's 24th Prime Minister. He wasn't a career politician. In fact, he had never won an election before. But he carried something rarer: global experience, economic wisdom, and a calm demeanor. Carney stepped in as Justin Trudeau stepped down, ending a decade-long Liberal legacy. Born in Fort Smith, Northwest Territories, Carney was the first PM ever born in a Canadian territory. He grew up in Edmonton, Alberta, a Western upbringing that shaped his pragmatic mindset. He studied at Harvard, then Oxford, earning a PhD in economics, a quiet academic with ambitions that would span continents. He entered the public eye during the 2008 financial crisis, not as a politician, but as governor of the Bank of Canada. He stabilized the Canadian economy when the world was falling apart. So impressive was his work that the UK hired him to lead the Bank of England, the first foreigner to do so. He managed Britain's economy during the stormy Brexit years, and later served as the UN's envoy on climate finance. By 2020, his name began surfacing in Canadian political circles, not as a banker, but as a potential future leader. In early 2025, Trudeau announced his resignation. Carney entered the Liberal leadership race, with many doubting his political chops. But when the votes were counted, he won with over 85% support. The country saw something rare: steady hands, fresh eyes, and no partisan baggage. On March 14, 2025, Mark Carney became Prime Minister. One of his first acts, scrapping the federal consumer carbon tax. It was symbolic, a nod to Western provinces and economic reform. Yet, he ensured Canadians would still receive their final rebate. He cut the size of the federal cabinet, signaling a leaner, more efficient government. And then he did something bold. He called a snap election. Canadians deserve a mandate, he said, not just a transition. The election was set for April 28th. It was risky. He had barely settled into office, but his gamble paid off. The Liberals won 169 seats, just 3 short of a majority. Carney also won a seat himself, representing Nepean, Ontario. Now, as a sitting MP and Prime Minister, Carney began to chart Canada's next chapter. At the heart of his agenda, economic sovereignty. In May 2025, U.S. President Donald Trump imposed new tariffs on Canadian goods, a 25% duty on steel and aluminum, and more on the horizon. Canada hit back. Carney imposed reciprocal tariffs and began high-level talks in Washington. But he didn't bend. Canada, he said, will not be bullied on trade. In June, Canada hosted the G7 summit in Alberta, Carney's home province. He welcomed world leaders and emphasized climate action, innovation, and resilience. But back home, another challenge brewed. Bill C-5, the One Canadian Economy Act, was introduced. Its goal: boost infrastructure and remove trade barriers within Canada. But Indigenous leaders opposed it, citing a lack of consultation. In a dramatic turn, they walked out of a cabinet meeting in protest. Carney's leadership was tested not by opposition parties, but by the need for reconciliation. He responded by opening new talks with Indigenous communities, promising shared decisions. Meanwhile, Canada's economy showed signs of strength. Inflation eased, employment rose. Carney's steady hand brought confidence to the markets. But he wasn't just focused on economics. He also announced a national clean energy transition plan, incentives for carbon capture, support for renewable projects, and a pledge to reach net. His stock comes slab candidate, technocratic. He didn't seek the spotlight. He let the results speak. By July 2025, he was meeting U.S. senators, trying to de-escalate tariff talks. Hopes for an August trade deal faded. But Carney remained patient. We're not chasing deadline. We're building a relationship. For many Canadians, he was a breath of fresh air. Less partisan, more professional. Critics said he lacked political instincts, that he was too cautious. But his supporters argued, that's exactly what Canada needs. a break from theatrics, a return to... He had no scandals, no tweets, no tantrums, just results. As summer 2025 unfolds, Carney's government prepares for the next legislative season. Big files await: housing, immigration reform, indigenous reconciliation. He must balance economic growth with climate promises and navigate the rising tensions between nationalism and globalization. For now, he has public trust and momentum. Canadians don't just see him as a politician. They see him as a steward, a manager in an era of noise. His journey from economist to prime minister is rare. His leadership style, rarer still. In an age of disruption, Carney offers stability. In an age of slogans, he offers substance. In an age of division, he offers unity. Mark Carney is not just leading Canada, he is redefining what leadership looks like. Not with charisma, but with competence. Not with promises, but with precision. His story isn't about a rise to power. It's about answering a call when it mattered most. From central bank to crisis manager to prime minister, Mark Carney's story is just beginning. And Canada's watching, carefree.